So hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining the second talk of the series called Sarah Speaks Mental Health in Fashion with Rosie Minako. Sorry. This event is running in conjunction with my online virtual exhibition Deaf Over Time Part 2. So the exhibition that's on at the moment is on for another 2 more weeks, and it's a virtual and immersive exhibition. You can go around and you can walk and explore and discover the artwork. Each garment that is in the exhibition raises awareness of mental health conditions, and they hold deep-rooted storytelling. So you can go along and you can view it and learn. And it's also got a selection of work that with artists and designers that I've worked with to carry on opening up the conversation on mental health. Both this exhibition and this event is kindly funded and supported by Time to Change. So my name is Sarah. I'm a fashion designer based in Carnaby, London. My brand raises awareness of social issues that are happening. The current areas that I'm focusing on is trauma, mental health, and sexual violence. In my spare time, I'm also a mental health activist and public speaker. I volunteer for Time to Change, and we campaign mainly in the Kingston area, but Time to Change is a national campaign, but I'm part of the Kingston hub in London. So yeah, like I said, this event is supported and funded by Time to Change. And yeah, the campaign that they do, basically the aim is to reduce mental health related stigma and discrimination. So I just want to start with a general health warning. We will be talking about serious and sensitive topics today. And as we don't know your mental health background or how you are feeling today, we need you to be aware of yourself and your vulnerability. Me and Rosie are going to be as open and honest as we can about our mental health experiences, and we don't know quite where the conversation is going to go. If you feel anxious or distressed at any point, please do take yourself out of the talk, and you can rejoin at any time. If you need support, you can call the Samaritans on 116 123, 116 123, or you can text shout 85258, and that is again 85258. Or you can also look for your own mental health services through this app called Hub of Hope. It's fantastic. Just type in where you are, like where you're based or where you're living, and lots of mental health services pop up. So this is for the UK. There's lots of help and support out there, so please do look after yourselves and reach out if you need to. Just another reminder that this talk is going to be recorded. We're going to be putting it on our website and YouTube. So again, if you don't want to be recorded, like your face recorded, please do take the video off. I'm also going to be taking notes throughout. So there's going to be a few times where I might be looking down. Just want to let you know that that's what I'm doing, is just writing a few notes while Rosie's talking. Right, so now I'm going to welcome Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, and I'm so happy to see so many of my friends here and new faces as well. So I'm very looking forward to the talk.
I'm really looking forward to it too. I think it's going to be really fantastic. And it's so great to see you today. So I'm just going to introduce a little bit about you. So Rosie Minako is a strong advocate on women's rights, gender equality, and sustainable living. Rosie takes part in multiple community campaigns for different charities as a volunteer, ambassador, and spokesperson to channel her advocacies on various international platforms. Rosie also promotes sustainable fashion through modeling and via her own eco-friendly couture brand. As a psychology graduate, Rosie is also very aware of mental health related issues. I remember when I first looked at her social media profile, when I first came across you, I think you contacted me about a project. And then I looked on your platforms, and I was instantly struck with how passionate you were for raising awareness of such important topics. Now, I haven't met Rosie physically in person yet. However, I do believe we have struck a very strong connection as we share similar values, both through our work and as just people. And also, we are currently planning some very exciting photo shoots together. So keep your eyes peeled on that. Okay, so Rosie, hello, welcome again.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I mean, I feel very grateful to cross paths with someone who have the same advocacies as me. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. Yeah, it is. I just think we have a lot in common, and we share the same needs to be passionate about talking about these really important topics. So why not do it together? I think we're stronger when we're together.
Yes, of course.
So first question, you are a big advocate for social issues, and I just kind of want to know a bit about what made you want to begin speaking up on these topics.
I think the reason I speak up is because I believe in the power and impact of our voices. It's so important not to let ourselves to be silenced, because you never know whose life you can impact or who you can empower, uplift, or encourage. And I speak up about issues which I feel strongly about. Either I want to create awareness, educate, or hoping to change the world in some of way via my platforms. And every time when I speak up, even if it's just narrating my own stories, I'm not only speaking up for myself, I'm actually speaking up for those whose voices are silenced, and even more to those whose rage, anger, and insecurities overwhelms the ability to articulate. And I am an advocate for mental health, obviously. But in the past, I've been mainly speaking for equality, gender equality, and racial equality. That's because I believe in justice. I believe the gender of a person doesn't determine his or her value. Likely, the race doesn't determine someone's humanity. And I fight hard with different charities and campaigns because I want to create a world whether it's guaranteed that everyone is respected and everyone's dignity and humanity is respected. That's why I fight hard for that. And to be honest, in the UK, we are very blessed with the freedom of speech. Because this could be, if I speak up for other issues in other places of the world, I could be castigated for that. And I do see it as a privilege. And while we have it, I do think we should fully utilize it, because this exact same right could be the same right someone in another country have been fighting for their whole lives. And it's a long process. I mean, we're not going to meet people who are in line with our advocacies all the time. And there will always be oppositions. It could be frustrating sometimes. But at the end of the day, I do see changes. Ever since the Black Lives Movement last year, I've been seeing more and more young people taking up space in the society. And even those who never believed that voices matter start to find the words to articulate. And I believe the world has to change. If we have to change it, we can't be silenced, because it only retrogrades if we keep our voices silenced. It becomes worse, it gets colder and more committed to those who have privilege in the society, who have status, who have access. And that's not right, because I believe that everyone should have the equal right in this society. That's why I'm so open about speaking up about different issues. And I do want to encourage everyone who's on this Zoom or you are going to watch it later to really use your voice and never underestimate the power of your voice. Because when we unite, when we actually raise our voices together, the impact is phenomenal. And I believe that more is possible when we are all in this together. I also want to encourage everyone to show more kindness and compassion in year 2021, especially when it is such a difficult time for everybody. So just support the community, think of some little ways to show love to each other, just by how we should be supporting the community.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Wow. Yeah, it's so fantastic to like hear a deeper insight into why you want to stand up for these issues. I think it's fantastic that you are using your voice. I think everyone has a voice, so everyone can use it. I appreciate that not everybody may have the confidence to do that, so it's fantastic to see people like you who do have that confidence for people to like aspire to. I just think it's so important. And you are right. In England we do have the freedom of speech, and unfortunately in some other countries, a lot of other countries, that's not necessarily the case. So it's very important to highlight that, actually. And yeah, never underestimate the power of your voice. I do think people together really can create positive change. I completely agree with you. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Thank you so much for answering that.
Yes, and I want to encourage everyone who is watching right now or you're going to watch later to really fully utilize the platforms you have. If you have a lot of followers on Instagram, use it, because you never know who you can impact. And it's actually so powerful when we raise our voices together and we can create the change that we want.
Exactly, I completely agree. And I think also, even if you don't have that many followers, I think as long as if you can reach one person, from every post that you share and stuff like that, then like that is creating, change, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
Anyone can do it. Like you said, we've all got our voice, so it's so important to
Even if it's just 5
open.
people, maybe you can change the mind of those 5 people. So you never know.
Exactly, yeah, you just never know. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
So going on from that, I was wondering what are your thoughts on how we could tackle mental health stigma and discrimination within the fashion industry, coming from a model's point of view, and yeah, just any other view as well that you may have.
I think there are both good sides and bad sides. The good side is what you're doing it, using it as a tool to create awareness of mental health, which is very beautiful to see, like what we're doing right now. However, I do think the fashion industry has definitely cultivated vulnerability to mental health illnesses. Actually, on the other day, I was doing some research, and studies did show that professionals in the fashion industry, whether it's a model, designer, or just someone who's working behind the scene, is 25% more likely to experience mental health issues during their life. And I have been like questioning why. And I think the high-paced nature of the fashion industry and the fact that everything is so competitive and critical, and in addition, we are working for long hours and under high pressure in a very demanding and high pressure driven environment and deadline driven environment. That has definitely been the culprit of it. And the figure is quite alarming. And as a model, I have been seeing other models feeling the pressure of being in a certain body size. And some of them can develop anxiety disorders and also like eating disorders as well. I mean, even if it's not something that is clinically significant to be diagnosed, it has definitely have a very negative impact on their mental health and self-image. And also, I think from the designer point of view, a lot of times we really have to be very careful about the message that we put out in even every design, because you can face a lot of criticism in this industry. And to be honest, I think a lot of times agencies can be very harsh on models as well. I literally had a friend whose agency would call her every other day and ask her how much calories she has eaten. And it's very upsetting to hear, because which I kind of understand, because as a designer, aesthetically, of course, when you like, I tend to use someone who's a bit slimmer and taller. That's because aesthetically it does make the design look more in proportion. However, because of all these expectations, a lot of agencies and directors are having a certain expectations of how models should be look like, the appearances, and that has caused a lot of pressure on them. Yeah, this is my point of view. And obviously, I think job security is also another problem. Modeling is a very highly romanticized occupation in the society. A lot of people in the public, they would think, oh, models are very wealthy, and fashion designers, obviously, you have a very high status in the society. But in reality, it's not the case, because we work for long hours and it's not always guaranteed that we have that job security. And having to juggle between like paying your bills and doing something that you're very passionate about can be very mentally devastating as well. So this is my point of view from a model and someone who's a professional in the fashion industry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, the example that you gave about sorry, one of someone you know about, you know, them calling up and checking what size they are. Like, I think I can understand the point of view of, like, you know, sticking to a certain size, but I don't know. I think, you know, every single body is healthy, you know, and we should do what makes us healthy. And by putting that kind of pressure, like you said, on, you know, the image and stuff, it just creates devastating effects, you know, with so much eating disorders that go on in the fashion industry, and a lot of people don't talk about it. You know, I think, you know, as long as if that person is healthy, whether, you know, whatever size they are, that's the most important thing. And, you know, the average person, you know, the average person isn't, oh, sorry, isn't a model, you know, like we are, you know, the normal body is just a normal body. So it's like, it's not necessarily a good representation of the, you know, the consumer in a way, really. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of competitiveness, a lot of pressure. And, you know, sometimes I wonder, like, why does it need to be like that? Does it really need to be like that, do you think? Like, I personally don't think it needs to be to that extent of when, you know, it then goes over the line of, you know, developing ill mental health and you know, just stress induced symptoms and stuff. Like, I just don't think it's necessary. Like, your life and your well-being and your balance of everything is the most important thing. Yeah, I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think it needs to be that stressful?
Definitely no. I think it's also a choice whether you accept to take the stress to that extent, or you set a benchmark. Okay, I'm going to do this to this, and then after that, I'm not going to put more effort in it, whether people like it or not. So this is, I think, is a personal choice rather than really conforming to the culture of the fashion industry. And also back to the question for the models. Yes, I have been seeing changes in the London fashion industry, for example, with charities like Models of Diversity. I feel like designers in London are more open to using models of different sizes, which is beautiful to see. I mean, I've been seeing plus size models, petite models, alternative models, mature models, and it's actually a very good representation of how the society should be. However, this trend is not the same worldwide, such as in the USA. They tend to really pressure models to be extremely skinny, like size 4 to 6. And it is upsetting to see, and I hope that everybody could really think about that and really raise awareness on the issue if you're working as a professional in the fashion industry.
Yeah, you've got such a good point. Yeah, I think I agree, like, London is moving forward with that, but yeah, you're right, a lot of the other countries aren't, and it is very, very sad to see.
Yeah.
You know, there's this brand called Art School, and like
Mhm.
all of their models are just, like, I think it started off as just his, like, the designer's friends, and, you know, they're all different shapes and sizes, which is beautiful to see, like you said. um I hope that with London paving the way of diversity, I hope that, you know, the other countries will, you know, begin to pick up on it, because we've just got to, like, keep pushing with that, you know.
Yes, definitely.
because it's the healthy way to be, really, isn't it? And also, when you were saying about I guess it's a way of, with the pressure thing, it's about setting your boundaries, isn't it, as a
Yes,
person?
exactly. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's setting those boundaries and knowing that what you've done is enough,
Yeah.
and it's enough for you and it's enough for your work, as sometimes we do set unrealistic goals, or for like maybe perfectionism, or just we take on too much, and it's good to take a step back and figure out what our boundaries are, and yeah, I think that it's a very powerful thing to be aware of boundaries. But it's not easy. I've only just learnt what boundaries are in this past year or two. So it's an ongoing journey. You don't just get there overnight. But yeah, I think, getting to that stage is a very beautiful thing. So what is your relationship like with the fashion industry and your mental health?
I think for me, during the lockdown, it has definitely been difficult because of COVID. And since a new variant, actually, I haven't had any photo shoot. Not because I don't want to, it's because both my parents and I work closely with very vulnerable individuals in the society. So obviously, I need to wait until everyone is vaccinated before I can go back to work. So everything. But I do this for a living, so the only way I can actually get paid is through pay partnership on Instagram or just anything online. And I think I have experienced such a huge pressure to be on social media all the time, just to be constantly present, and it definitely has affected me in some way. So that's why I took a social media break 2 weeks ago. I think you know about that. And I have been so grateful about that because I felt so much better. It's just like, yeah, I mean, I think the social media pressure is a lot on me, especially during the lockdown. But otherwise, I have been very good.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I think social media detox is so important for everyone, really, because it's very easy to get wrapped up in things when it's like right in front of you all the time. Um, and it's good to just have a bit of a break from it, turn it all off for a couple of days, couple of weeks. Really just live in the present moment,
Of
and really
course.
bring clarity to yourself and just for your well-being, and it's very mindful as well. That's fantastic. What about your relationship with your mental health and fashion pre-lockdown? I mean, if you can remember, I mean, I know it's quite a long time ago, but
Actually, I think it was around the time of the lockdown. I realized that I can actually utilize the time to do something I never had have the time to. So that's when the time I started designing. And I do thank the lockdown in a way because it has given me something to do at home, and it has definitely have a very positive impact on my mental health when I start designing, when I start putting my thoughts into something I love. So this is a good point of it. But I do try to, because mental health is not something constant. It's like a curve. Sometimes it can be very good. You have your bad days as well. So I try to use this time to actually teach myself, educate myself on how to build resilience. And there are a number of things that I actually do every day, which I find particularly useful in helping me to build up my resilience. And I want to share with all of you. So first thing is gratitude. I find it extremely powerful, and it has actually given me the resilience I need amid adversities. So I try to remind myself to be grateful for every little thing, even the air in your lungs. I mean, you never realize how precious that is until it's gone. I mean, it's something that we tend to take for granted for. And yes, and I try to just focus on something positive, just magnifying the good instead of focusing on the challenges, and look for the beautiful silver lining behind every cloud. And that has definitely put me in a very positive state of mind. And I do guided meditation every day for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and combined with some positive affirmations. I find it really helpful because it helps me to start my day positively and to let go any of the fears, anxieties, and worries I have. And even for positive affirmation, it's as simple as saying, "Oh, I'm so grateful for today." Even if I wake up feeling terrible, I will start really believing what I say after I repeat a few times. So I find it really, really useful. And yeah, obviously social media has some kind of pressure on me, but at the same time I see it as a tool that we can actually stay connected with others, your loved ones, especially when you're restricted from seeing them, which is really nice to see, and to spread love and just to check into your friends and asking them how they are. And you will be surprised by the amount of responses, the kind of responses they have, because some of them actually live alone and maybe they're older as well, so they really don't have anyone to talk to. So these "how are you" messages doesn't only help you mentally, but it's actually showing them that someone actually cares for them, and it's so powerful.
Thank you so much for sharing them. I completely agree. It is so powerful to to check in with people, to see how they're doing. It helps you and it helps them. And I completely agree of using social media as a tool. That's something that's really helped me come to terms with like how long I spend on it as well. I use social media as a tool for my business, but I also use it in my spare time to contact my friends and family. I'm very grateful that we've got it. It's so important to have it because, if we were in this pandemic without it, it would be very, very hard. It's very hard anyway, but not having that connection with people, especially if you're living on your own, like you said, yeah, it can be so detrimental to your health. So to keep that connection with people is just vital. Um, and I'm a big advocate for affirmations as well. I was introduced to them earlier last year by a very good friend of mine, Steve. And just, repeating these positive words really do help manifest you into a higher vibration on a daily basis. And it can really change your perspective. It's not to say that you can't have negative or bad thoughts. Like, it's not about that. It's about seeing it, the fact that you can move forward. And like you said, like it's not a straight line. It's up and down. You'll have good days and you'll have bad days, but the tools that you have in place help you for when you are having maybe a bad day, a dark day, a grey day, whatever that might be. It's so important to have these things in place to help you to strive for your personal life and your work life. And I love the gratitude thing as well, like about just being grateful to breathe, because you're right, like we do take that for granted.
Of course.
Because we all have it. We have to have it in order to live.
Yes.
So to be grateful for those such simple things really brings clarity to yourself, and really makes you live in the present moment. Being grateful, from what I've experienced when I've done a gratitude list,
Oh
the
yes,
thing.
I do that as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. They're very powerful.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but from what I've noticed when I've done them, is that I'm very grateful for the most simplest things, because if I didn't have those things, it would be very strange and it would be a struggle. What kind of things come up on your list when you do your gratitude list? Is it an
It's
extra?
it can be something as simple as having clean water to drink, or a roof on top of your head. Because I don't know about the UK or the rest of the Europe, but in back home, these are not something that everyone has. So if we have it, I think we are very blessed in a way. And obviously, like having friends who support you and being able to see your family, like your parents, because I live with my parents, I feel I'm very extremely grateful for.
Yes, that's fantastic. I agree. Yeah. I've got my brother. One of my brothers lives in Thailand, and yeah, they can't drink the
Yeah,
tap water.
exactly.
So yeah, that it would be very it's very unhealthy.
Yeah,
So
and every time when it rains, like the roof can actually fall down. And I'm so grateful that in England, the infrastructure of buildings are, relatively better than back home.
yeah. So going on back home, so you're from Hong Kong. So as someone who is from Hong Kong living in the UK, what are the cultural differences between Hong Kong and England that you've noticed when talking about mental health?
So yeah, I'm actually ethnicity-wise, I'm half Japanese, half Hong Kong. But if you guys don't know, and I grew up in Hong Kong mostly, so I'm more familiarized with the Hong Kong culture than the Japanese culture. So I'm going to focus on the conversation on Hong Kong. Yeah, so I think in the UK, in England, people are obviously more open to talk about mental health issues. However, it is still somewhat a taboo in both places. I mean, I'm thankful that I have the background in psychology and I had the experience of actually volunteering as a counselor in different organizations back home. That has definitely helped me to be vocal about my mental health advocacies. But if I actually suffer from a mental health illness back home, I do need to be extremely careful with who I disclose the information with, because obviously it definitely has a very negative connotation back home. And employers do take it very seriously. Whereas here in the UK, I have seen my colleagues going through mental health struggles. When they open up to their employers, I feel like they're more open to actually find a support system to go through that together, which is beautiful to see. However, still, there's such a strong social stigma attached to mental health that really needs to be eradicated and removed before we can live on a planet that we can feel open to talk about mental health just as our physical health without any fear, anxiety, or shame to that. And I really want everyone to know that mental health is not a bad notion. It's not limited or confined to those who suffer from mental health illnesses. It is something I see as something positive that we can all work on. And to me, it's about resilience, it's about feeling good, positive about yourself. It's about mindfulness. And it's so important to actually encourage everyone to build up that resilience and to educate people and provide them with a toolkit to how to look after themselves, because the benefits of being able to look after yourself, your mental health, is immeasurable if we can actually achieve that. And that's also another thing I want to talk about. I used to be a primary school teacher before I actually enter the fashion industry in a state school in London. So from what I observe, a lot of times we do prioritize physical education, we do prioritize citizenship education, or just any other education other than mental health, we do prioritize. There are useful resources in place, however, it's not enough. There's clearly an inadequate system and structure being placed in schools and workplace when it comes to mental health. In the school I used to teach, we didn't even have a mental health well-being team or well-being days. It's not something that is prioritized. And it's really sad to see, because I had parents coming in and telling me about their marital problems. I'm thankful in a way that they trust me, but I shouldn't be the first person they go to. There should be, where's your friend, where's your spouse? I really have these questions in mind. I think a mental health reform is very much needed in this country. Actually, it's demanded. We really have to let young people know it's okay not to be okay, and teach them where to reach out to, because ultimately we can't control what's going to happen in this world. There are always going to be bad things happening. However, what we can control is the resilience inside us, how we can build that up, and how we can actually formulate a better plans to educate the young people when it comes to that. And I really urge everyone to really prioritize that, especially when you work with the government or charities, because it is already such a difficult period of time. And young people are even more susceptible to mental health illnesses during COVID. And obviously, physical health and mental health are related, are closely related. If you don't have a good resilience for your mental health, you're more prone to get sick as well. So I feel this is something that has to be handled hand in hand.
I completely agree. I mean, the mind and body are connected. So, you know, if one side isn't working, then the other side is, you know, gonna suffer with that. We've got to have that balance of the two. And we've got to get to a point where talking about mental health is normalized and it's as important as physical health. You know, if you are having a bad day with your mental health, you know, you're feeling low or anxious, you know, that should be enough to be able to get that confidence to call in sick. You know, you would call in sick if you had a broken arm or if you had a migraine. We need to get to a point where, you know, people take it as seriously as a physical health. And yeah, I mean, the mental health in young people is mental health needs to be, you know, obviously spoken about in all aspects of life, but you know, young people definitely as well. I mean, it's very hard in the lockdown for young people. And we were talking yesterday about someone that's been appointed. I forgot his name. Was it Alex?
Alex, yeah, Alex George, I think. I actually am so thankful the government actually listens to that. It shows a lot. Imagine like Boris, he's the busiest man in this country. And in the middle of this pandemic, he spared 30 minutes to listen to the advocacies of young people. And that shows a lot. I think it's a very positive change. It's a good step, but it's not enough. There is so much more that we can do when it comes to mental health.
Definitely, yeah. So we've got a long way to go, but it's definitely looking positive and we are moving in the right direction. And there are lots of kind people out there who want to create positive change like yourself. So there is definitely that hope, you know, and I think we keep pushing and it will, yeah, important and big changes will happen. And we've seen it for ourselves with the new appointment appointed by Alex. So yes, fantastic. Yeah, so shall we go on to the Q&As now? I think there was a few
course,
questions
yeah.
to ask you, Rosie. So okay, so question one. Both Sarah and Rosie, have you created plus size designs or even average size designs? If not, would you be willing to? What would stop you from doing it? That's a very good question. Do you want to answer first, Rosie?
Yes, of course. I would love to create all sizes. The thing is that I actually do modeling for a living. So designing is just like a hobby. I didn't really have time to do like anything right now, actually. But in the future, I would definitely consider that, definitely.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work actually. It's very beautiful. I'm excited to see more as it
I
progresses.
just really never really have time for that now. So I think it's something I try to do it as a hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, okay, so from my point of view, a lot of the garments that I make for my brand is bespoke. So it's to anybody, any shape. And you know, these garments are investment pieces. They last for your whole life, by the way that they've created, by the way that they're made. So yeah, so I have made for various sizes. And you know, I've been exposed with really powerful and important people around me who advocate for body image. So it's really given me like a new perspective on when I'm designing and creating garments that are more like ready to wear, where you just buy, compared to bespoke, because bespoke will be any size. Because no one is that average size 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. It's just everybody is slightly different. So yeah, it's being around these people has definitely opened my eyes. So some designs that I'm working on at the moment, which are garments that you'll be able to just purchase. There's no like fittings involved. I'm looking to make them unisex size. And they're going to be they're going to be like a size 14, so it can lots of people can wear them really. Yeah, so I personally don't think there's anything from me stopping doing it. Yeah, and I've also got plans to, so I've got the mental health collection, which is bespoke, and I've got them as samples. When I created these samples, I made them to my friend Tabby, who's actually in this audience. I made them to fit her because I had to fit them to someone. She's between a size 6 and 8. Now when I made them, it was the objective of having them for like photo shoots and stuff when I was at uni. But since I've been exposed to, you know, the people around me who are big advocates for body image, I'm actually currently making the collection again in a size 14. Because yeah, it's just, I just think it's important to show, I think it's important for designers to show different sizes, because it really then speaks to everybody, not just a specific type of person. And also not only that, but it's creating this potential pressure to on people to be, you know, losing weight, and we know where that can unfortunately develop into. So it's all about being happy in the body that you're happy in, and having designers make garments for just everybody and anybody. I think it's just so important. Yeah, so question 2. Lucy said, I agree it's really powerful what Rosie was saying about establishing personal boundaries and not giving into the pressure from the fashion industry or society. But from the outside, the pressure from the fashion industry looks very strong. How easy is it for individuals to resist this pressure? Is anything being done to support individuals inside the industry to recognize and set their own personal boundaries?
Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything in place. What we can do is to keep creating awareness on different platforms and let people to actually be aware of it and eventually create a trend in the future. And I hope that it is something that we can do by advocating and by participating in different campaigns. What do you think, Sarah?
Sorry, I got distracted with the other questions that are coming in.
I don't think there's anything in place right now, particularly, no.
I don't think so as such, but what I have seen actually, I've seen a few organizations and collectives supporting models with mental health, which I can share with you, Rosie, because I think it will be really interesting for you. So one of them is called Be Well Collective, and it's run by this woman who, I don't know if she's still a model, but she was a model. And there's support in place for models who might be suffering with like eating disorders and stuff like that. I haven't looked that massively into it, but I saw that. That's the only thing I've seen, which is not enough. And there are lots of other careers in fashion, you know, with this high pressure of stress, you know, the late night working. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, some of the internships I've experienced have been very unhealthy and very illegal. And, you know, I didn't have the confidence at this point to speak up for myself. And also, you know, I feel like I should be grateful to be put into this position, you know, to have this experience. So, you know, if I speak up, then, you know, there's a chance that I won't be able to carry on interning. So, yeah, it's definitely learning to set those boundaries, but you need people around you who are confident in that and who have had experience to help teach these people. But in the back of my mind, it's been something to like think about. Maybe, yeah, I don't know, organizing or something, that would be quite cool. But I know Time to Change does a workers pledge, which I think a lot of people in the fashion industry should look into. And although Time to Change is finishing in March, some hubs are carrying on, and hopefully the workers pledge can carry on too. So, you know, the company has to pledge with specific guidelines to abide by for mental health. So I think that's just really powerful to have the people at the top of the company agree to this. Means that if someone comes to you with a mental health problem, you know, they won't face this stigma and discrimination, and there'll be this safe space to help. So I think that is like a good moving forward for people in the fashion industry to look into. Yeah. And then question 3, how much is this about the values in society today? I'm not quite sure what's that in reference to. How much is this about? What do you mean by this? Can someone, could whoever asked that question, would you mind just elaborating a little bit? Because it might have been in reference to something we were talking about earlier. So I'll just move on to the next question, just in case, like, yeah, if you could just elaborate a little bit more, that would be great. Thank you. How do you, so this is for me, how do you draw the line between raising awareness and being offensive? That's a very good question. It's very hard, yeah, because I talk about very sensitive subjects, and I'm constantly worried in the back of my mind that, you know, I'm gonna be offensive or I'm gonna trigger someone, or yeah, you know, I might get backlash for it. So for me, my way of designing and creating each collection, I spend a lot of time researching what I'm talking about. So my current collection on mental health, like I researched that for a year and a half. A lot of designers don't have that time to research because they're churning out all of these collections each year. My brand is all about slow fashion, so you know, we only create like one collection a year. That gives me enough time to really do in-depth research about the subject I'm looking into, and I conduct interviews for everything I make, because learning from real people's experiences is the most factual information that someone can get. I also, for the topics that I'm focusing on, I also draw in from my own experiences too. So it's a very fine line. It's very fine line, but I'm also always open if someone is offended, or you know, if they think that maybe what I'm saying they don't think is right. I'm very open for them to come and talk to me, and we can discuss it, and then we can work on it. You know, if there was something that was offensive, or if there was something that wasn't correct, like I'm very open to talking about that. So I think it's, yeah, I like to think that my stuff isn't being offensive, but yeah, it's a very fine line. I just think doing in-depth research, it pays off. Like it means that, you know, you're really understanding of what the topic is. You know it inside out. You admit that you're not, you know, like a professional in that field, but you're doing as much as you can. And the aim is to raise awareness, and open up the conversation. And I think that's a beautiful thing if people just start to talk about it. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Tony commented, rights need to be maintained to once achieved. I completely agree with that. What do you think about that, Rosie?
Can you repeat that again?
Oh yeah, sure. So Tony commented, I think this was when we were talking right at the beginning. He said, rights need to be maintained to once achieved. Like,
let me see what's going on. All right, here today. I think it's like finding a balance in everything, and just to be really mindful about the language as well. And when we are not very sure, we really have to research on different topics before we speak up, because like you said, it can be offensive to someone. And also I do take account into a lot of cultural backgrounds, like especially in designer works, etc., because you never know what is acceptable in our culture could be very different from another person's culture. Did I answer the question, or?
I think so, but yeah. Tony can let us know if not. Don't worry about it. We'll just move on to the next one. And then we'll go back to it if he doesn't think we've answered it. Justin commented, the fashion industry, much like TV and films, run on the idea that you are only as good as your last job. What do you think about that? I think he's very right. I think a lot of pressure is on designers' collections. You are only as good as your last collection.
I think, you know what, the thing is that I feel like at the end of the day, not everyone is going to love your collection. And what makes me like satisfied is whether I love it, like honestly, like very honestly. And I think it's also very important to actually tailor that collection to a specific population, because obviously for me, I do Oriental collection, and I do find that a lot of people, maybe Westerners, could find it a little bit weird, you know, like different opinions. And what I tailor for Japanese and like, you know, East Asians, I find it more difficult, more easier for them to accept my collections, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's about knowing your
Target
target
audience.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So about knowing your target audience. It's about having confidence that what you've done is as transparent as you can be. And it's to the right quality, and yeah, just about knowing your target audience. Then
And that's a
it
very
doesn't.
good question, actually, because a lot of designers who I personally know do feel a lot of pressure to keep, like, constantly keeping up with being better than their last collection, you know. I think it's
Exactly.
quite a subjective idea, because what I think is beautiful may be very different from what you think. And ultimately, it's your design. You have to be comfortable in it. And that's the most important thing.
I completely agree. Yeah. And Tony commented saying mental health needs maintenance just like physical health. I very much agree with that.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, so Lucy was just saying the time to change pledge has ended now. That's sad. But Mind has a workplace team that offers training and guidance to employers. So that's fantastic to know. Thank you for letting us know that, Lucy. Okay. So this is the question again. Thank you. How much is this about the values in society today in terms of materialist values, sorry, as opposed to a focus on well-being?
Oh, actually, this is something that we talked about last night, wasn't it? Me and Sarah were talking about this buy now, pay later scheme the UK has in place. It has encouraged a lot of people, and obviously with the pressure of social media that we keep, like a lot of young people feel the pressure to keep up with the current trend of different fashion. So they spend more money and than more they can actually afford to actually pay for the fashion and clothes. And it has definitely caused a negative impact on their mental health, because they result in death and just a lot of anxiety from that. What do you think?
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
sorry.
no, I just think that because we live in a world where we are so used to social media, and obviously when someone posts, it's always the good side of that. So we are very tend to flaunt our materialistic side and also to show off. And this is something that everyone has a tendency to do. But obviously for young people, it can be like, because they haven't really found their place, they could be following each other and just wanting to find a place in the society, so it could be very harmful to them to compare, and you know, the peer pressure and everything when it comes to materialistic world.
Yeah, I completely agree. So there's just a few more questions as well. So I think I've had some privately, sorry, Persephone, but I think they're still questions.
Let me read that as well.
So Sarah, should we explore a collaboration opportunity between fashion and fine arts? Now I'm a bit confused. Are you asking me if I want to collaborate with you, or do you mean that as like a wider question, as in like fashion and arts should collaborate? Because first of all, I'd love to collaborate with you, Dorota. But if that was a question as like a general thing too, I think Rosie can chip in with this as well, to be honest, because I think fashion and fine arts definitely do overlap, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of garments where they're like, you know, hand painted on, and there are certain paints that you can use to actually make that you know, work on a fabric where you can wash it still and stuff like that. And you know, both fashion and art evoke emotion and messages, so it makes sense for them to overlap 100%. You know, I've made a garment recently with an artist called Daniela Reichev, and she and that garment raises awareness of rape and sexual violence. And she hand painted a gorgeous painting all around it, based on interviews that she conducted of survivors of sexual abuse. So I definitely think that they can overlap 100%. What do you think,
I think
Rosie?
that always, because for me, like in the creative industry, to me, this is just personal. I think music, art, and design always goes hand in hand. I remember the first time when I got into creativity was I went to art classes. I learned to paint when I was in kindergarten. That's the time when I realized how much I loved creative work. And after a few years, I started to learn music, and obviously now I started to design as well. So I see it as something, art can be actually an inspiration for your design as well. So I think it's something, definitely it goes hand in hand. And without art, obviously design would be another thing, because a lot of designers work actually combine the two, especially when you have a specific message to raise, you always combine the two. So I think, yeah, it's not separable.
No, yeah, definitely. And you know, when I'm going through like my research for collections, I often take inspiration from fine artists. I find that a lot more inspirational than looking at like other designers, because there's a high chance I'll end up subconsciously taking maybe a bit of their
Exactly.
design, because it's just there in front, right? Even if I'm not consciously doing it, there's still that subconscious element. Nevertheless, I do still find other designers very inspiring, and I love looking at them. But fine art, yeah, I'm very inspired by that. So I had a question. I think it accidentally got sent like privately to me. But it's a question we can both answer. So how do you think current mental health is being reflected within the fashion industry? For example, the colors, shapes, and textures used in design, styling, and photography. Now, have you come across anyone in the fashion industry that's talking about mental health through, you know, their garments and stuff, or styling or photography?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, basically, to be honest with you, you're one of a really like special persons who like use all your designs to advocate for a message. I haven't really specifically come across of anyone who uses all their designs to do that. And I think it's very admirable, and it's such a beautiful thing to see. I have seen, however, designers actually donate their designs to different charity campaigns to raise awareness, or to create a bespoke design just for maybe an exhibition for a gallery. But like for designer who does that, like all the designs, is only you so far. And I hope to meet more, and I hope to encourage and actually inspire more people to do that, because it's such an important thing to do.
Oh, well, thank you. Didn't ask her to say that. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I think loads more people need to be doing it, because it's just so important. And fashion is that such a powerful platform to create awareness. I've seen a few fashion designers use mental health in a very insensitive way. Uh over like past times, or you know, they might be using it as a trend, or they might have used some rather triggering and graphic. I saw on the runway a couple of years ago, one brand had created these like necklaces, but they were actually like nooses going around, and that's extremely insensitive. So I think it's kind of like a lot of people don't think that it can overlap because of these insensitive ways of going about it. However, on the bright side, if there have been a few people who have contacted me, and they're saying that they're creating mental health awareness through their work, through colors, through textures, which I find incredibly like stimulating. And so I definitely think that it's gonna be coming. And yeah, I think it's really beautiful to like see that happen. Yeah, so that's really nice when they contacted me. So I think we answered that question, these questions. I feel a lot. I feel a lot of fashion. Oh, you know what? We'll just ask this question, and then well, there's quite a lot of questions, and I'm aware that we've run over time. So if people do need to go, then that's totally fine. But if people are happy to stay as well, we'll, Rosie, are you happy to just
Of
answer a couple
course.
more questions?
And I'm
Yeah.
so happy if you stay with us.
Yeah, it's fantastic that there's so many people involved in asking these questions. Like, it's so exciting. Thank you so much for being involved. Okay, so I feel a lot of fashion companies has a toxic atmosphere, very like the Devil Wears Prada or worse, where staff are treated like slaves. How do you feel we can change this and create a better atmosphere?
I think there are so many ways we can do. First, to like just to create awareness, and I think it goes hand in hand with like government campaigns as well. For example, we can create petition and to actually tell the government what, like, to legalize things. For example, exceeding hours of work, or like being underpaid, or just like someone who's being abused or taken advantage in the fashion industry. I think in the future this is something that we can work towards, because obviously it's not only in the UK but also back home. A lot of times when these big brands, behind those big brands are just blood and tears. I work in an organization where I speak for as a spokesperson. It's called Know Me Network, and we help women who are like garment laborers. And I heard heartbreaking stories every day. And I was thinking, behind all this glamour, I really want to create a fashion industry that is both beautiful inside and out, not only beautiful from the outside. And we have been having like a few campaigns to just to legalize things, and it's in a slow progress, but it's leading to somewhere. And hopefully in the future, we can really eradicate all the negative things that is happening in the fashion industry. And that's also another thing why I'm such a strong advocate for sustainable fashion. Because a lot of times when the garment is sustainable, it also shows that behind the fashion and the piece of like clothing, it actually respects human rights as well.
Yeah. And there's another question. If you were offered a dream job at a fashion house, would you be prepared to put aside some of your values?
I think this is a question for you instead of me.
Oh,
It's
okay. Well,
a fashion house designing job.
um, now I would say, no, I'm not prepared to. I wouldn't be prepared to put aside my values. I think if you asked me that question, like 4 years ago when I was it 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when I'm a lot younger, slightly less confident and aware and not even aware of what my values are, then yeah, I probably would have put aside some of them because I wouldn't have had that confidence to set my boundaries. But now I'm very much aware of what my values are, and if they do not align with it, then that is not the path for me, and that is okay. But yeah, it would have probably been a different answer a couple of years ago. But I'm glad that I'm at where I am at now. Do you think it's hard for designers brands to represent more than one social issue, e.g., feminism, sustainability, mental health, racism, etc.? Do you feel like you are trying to do too much? So I don't know. I don't think it. I think. Well, I mean, yeah, it can be hard to represent more than one social issue because you should be able to have time to really learn about it, and you need that space and time in order to really submerse yourself and be tuned in to what's going on. But are you asking me if it's impossible? I don't think it is. I think, a lot of social issues, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them do kind of overlap in a sense. And at the moment, I am focusing on specific areas of trauma, sexual violence, and mental health. And then you know, as my brand progresses, there are lots of other areas I want to be looking into, such as racism and disabilities and stuff like that. And I think saying social issues gives me that, there's just always something that needs to be spoken about. So I think it gives me that openness to keep on exploring and to keep on raising awareness. So I definitely, I think it's good to stick to a few areas to begin with, and then, you know, as my brand progresses and develops, then, you know, I'm more than willing to take on as much as possible. I mean, you know, my team is very small at the moment, so, you know, as it develops, then, you know, when I hire more people that align with my brand's values, then, you know, the world is our oyster.
Think at the end of the day, everything is correlated, and every month it has an issue. For example, in March is Women's Empowerment Day, and maybe in another month is Mental Health Awareness Day. And I think you can make use of what is going on at that period of time to actually launch your collection, so people can actually resonate with you more. And I think
Yeah,
it's not like doing too much, it's just a combination and finding a balance between different things.
yes, definitely finding a balance. Um, there is currently a trend of clothing brands raising awareness of mental health, usually in terms of imaging featured on clothing or an inspirational phrase. Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, I've seen that a lot, yes. There's lots of designers out there that like create t-shirts and stuff like that for mental health and stuff like that, which I think is fantastic. It's great to have, like, you know, positive you know, affirmations, I guess, you know, or sayings for people to see on the street, you know, like, it's so fantastic. You never know who's going to be like seeing you wear these t-shirts. I think it's so important to do that, because you don't know who you're going to be helping. You don't know, by smiling at a stranger on the street, you know, it could really change their day. And to see a really nice positive thing on a piece of clothing is so important. Yeah, wow. Okay. So yeah, I'm aware that we've run over. So I'm sorry about that, but also, yeah, it's so wonderful to have everyone's questions come in. Thank you so much to Rosie for coming on, and
Thank you so
thank
much
you
for
to
having me
everyone.
and joining.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I think it's been so important, powerful, and I hope it's been beneficial to people watching. We're very grateful for everyone coming on and taking an hour out of your evening. Yeah, so just thank you so much, Rosie. So we have another guest coming on next Wednesday, called Antonia Latz. She is a model and dancer. She'll be joining us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. I will send out information through emails to let you know, and I'll be giving an introduction to her. She's a fantastic woman. I'm really excited to have her on and to talk about mental health in the fashion industry. If you'd also like to visit the exhibition that I mentioned earlier, there will be information in the chat on how to enter, and it's free. It's on for another 2 weeks. Anyone can access it anywhere. It's best to access on PC or Mac if possible. But yeah, enjoy it. It's very immersive. There's lots to learn about and you, and hopefully even be inspired. And we're always looking for more Times Change champions. If you'd like to become a champion, you know, start talking about your mental health experiences, please do get in touch. There's information in the chat. Also, if you'd like to contact me or Rosie afterwards, there's also our contact details too. We're very open to discussing anything that's happened in this talk, or discussing things further. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And just another reminder, if anything has become triggering in this chat, please do reach out for help. There's signposting contacts in the chat. Yeah, thank you so much again, everyone. It's been fantastic. I'm really grateful for everyone turning up, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Rosie.
Bye.